If you or a loved one are suffering from addiction or alcoholism, I'm here to tell you that there is help out there, even when it doesn't seem that way. You can attend or call the many great anonymous groups in your local community, or, of course, the SAMHSA Drug Addiction National Hotline found at 1-800-662-HELP. They provide free referral service in both English and Spanish 24 hours a day, as well as other information about drug addiction. There are hundreds of books, websites, and other resources, as well as joining us right here on Simply Difficult. This show is not affiliated with AA, NA, or other anonymous groups, just provides another safe place to listen, learn, and recover together. Me, I'm not a licensed professional. My name is Sam Speck, and I, too, am in recovery. I just have a microphone and a will to help myself and others recover. Through this program, we will bring on guests, including professionals in addiction counseling, psychology, and other recovering addicts sharing their advice, stories, and experience through addiction. Shows will be 1 hour long in a variety of big book work, step work, spiritual reading interpretation, DBT training, and professional advice interviews, as well as trying to normalize the simply difficult conversation you need to have with a loved one, or more importantly, yourself. Welcome in. Another edition of Simply Difficult. This is a recovery podcast, as well as streamline broadcast, whatever you'd like to call it here. Just another safe place where addicts, alcoholics, and everyone in between can get a little bit of information, as well as different skill sets and just some skills to take home with you, and a lot of information to really meld and take away that harsh, bold line that is the conversation between addicts and the loved ones, or maybe those ones that they need to reach out to at some point. But again, find that big barrier in between talking, because it is something difficult to speak about. So today, and as many other days, we are going to talk about it. A recovery podcast here is Simply Difficult. So I'm your host, Sam Speck. I too am in recovery. I'm a recovering drug addict as well as alcoholic. So I do not consider myself a professional within any sort of psychology, counseling, drug addiction counseling, whichever. I am going to try and use my resources through the radio, as well as the people that I've met to try and bring on counselors, which, by the way, next week we are going to have a recovering addict join me. We had some issues last week with getting him on, but he's going to be coming on next week, so that will be some pretty good stuff. We'll be able to hear his side of stuff and not only mine. And I want to encourage you to be a part of the show as well. We've got the email down there, simply-difficult@outlook.com. Send me your story. Send me your rebirth date, by the way. So if from now until next Saturday, when our next show is streamed, if you have a rebirth date to celebrate, meaning if you have been sober between 1 and 12 months or beyond however many years, I'd like to celebrate that milestone with you. We've got a couple for today. We'll save that for the end of the show, just kind of a nice little celebratory goodbye. And so we'll celebrate that at the end. I've got one myself today. It's a small milestone, but hey, you got to continue to take those small steps as you continue on. So send in your birthdays, send in your advice, send in your story. And again, if you'd like to join our show, it's as easy as joining me via Skype or FaceTime or something of that such. And again, you can stay completely anonymous. I'd love to have you on and just you and I have a conversation. You don't have to really have any of your information out there other than your voice, and really we could even cover up your voice as well if it comes to that extent. But again, you can be a part of the show, and we encourage you to do so. Many different ways to do it. So simply-difficult@outlook.com. We're also, again, for now, available up on YouTube and on SoundCloud, so you can leave a lot of information in the comment sections of both of those. Also, give us a like, give us a subscribe, a follow, a share. Give us all that so we can, get as many folks out there that might need this small bridge. Again, we're not affiliated with AA or other anonymous groups, but as you will see, and as we will go here in just a moment, we'll figure out how it works. There's a lot of the similar construct of what an AA meeting is built up around, and other anonymous groups as well here for Simply Difficult. So for many of those that just need another place to go and have a meeting, they can join us here. Or maybe, again, if you're thinking about going and haven't gone, this will kind of bridge that gap between never going and being curious and then kind of having an idea before you walk into the door. for. And then also for those that, again, are just completely curious, really we call them the normies, aren't the ones that are affected by addiction. And today we're going to get through quite a bit of stuff that, again, is the major separation between those people that do have an addiction and those that don't. I struggle with the word disease. I like the word allergy quite a bit more, but at the same time, people do need to understand that there is something going on in somebody's mind that has to do with addiction, 100%. We're going to go over that today. We're going to continue on with our DBT training as we got into it last week. Again, last episode, we just kind of went over the, overview, I guess, the vague overview of what DBT is. Dialectical behavior therapy. Dialectical behavior therapy is the ability to step back from a situation and realize that there is not one but two different ways that you can act upon that situation. It's an emotional, spiritual type of rehabilitation, truly. This is something that I was taught through inpatient rehab at Holland Pathways. Again, shout out to them. Not a partner with them yet, but at the same time, we're trying to get some of their counselors on to join me as well throughout later episodes. So again, today we're going to go over that difference, which is neuroplasticity, the difference between an addict's brain and one that is not, the big brain chemistry change that has taken away. And then as we started last week, just some DBT skills. We're going to get into emotion regulation just as we started last week. Lots that is in the DBT. So there is many different episodes. It's going to be quite a bit of information. So we're going to spread it out as quite a bit as we can to make it a little bit easier to consume as well. But as we do every episode, we'll get to that a little bit later. That will kind of be the meat of it. We're going to go through the NA book again, actually. We're going to kind of look into Step 2. I think there's a good reading within the NA book about Step 2, kind of, again, transitioning away from Step 1 like we have in the first couple of episodes and moving on to Step 2. So I think there's a good reading in there. And then as we always do, we have our daily reading from the CA Daily Meditation, as well as a little bit of from the Little Red Book as well. And then we'll, a little bit later in our final segment, we'll talk about post-acute withdrawal system and then birthdays, and then we'll get the hell out of here. So again, only 1 hour long every weekend. We had to do a little bit of a catch-up because, again, myself, I've been quite a bit busy with my job, and I'll tell you what, it kicked my ass. I'm so out of shape, and then to all of a sudden throw myself into a fairly physical, demanding job, it kicked my ass, and I was exhausted. So good to be back, though. Still sober as well, and in fact, today celebrating 2 months sober since my last use of drugs or alcohol. So I'm not. Again, there's an asterisk next to it, I guess. I try and stay realistic and as honest as I can. I have smoked weed, but that was really never my concern. Again, I'm a realist, so truthfully, purist-wise, not 2 months clean, but away from pills, heavy opiates, and alcohol, 100%. So 2 months today. I'm going to keep that number. I'm proud of that. But at the same time, purist-wise, no, not 100%. I got to get to that point. And again, long-term goal, it's one of mine. So real quick, though, before we get into what our last week has looked like, goals for the next week, as well as kind of reflecting on the last 7 days, let's, of course, figure out how it works here.
Here's how it works.
Folks, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates, and they're not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They're naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take these certain steps. At some of these we did balk. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, our own way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we're dealing with drugs and alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. Without help, it is too much for us, but there is one who has all power, and that one is God. And may you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon, and here are the steps we took which are suggested as a program of recovery. Step number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, became to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, made a decision to turn over our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves for 4. And number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6 includes entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of characters. And 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. Then 8 and 9 include making a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Followed by 9, making those direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when you would do so, injuring them or others. Number 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when wrong, promptly admitted it. Number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we know Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And the final step, having a spiritual awakening. As the result of these prior steps, we tried to carry this message to other alcoholics and addicts to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What in order? I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We're not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if He were sought.
All right, good stuff. Again, that is page 58. If you ever want to follow along with that in the big book, of course, there is a little bit of a variance within each anonymous group within their How It Works pages. Of course, different pages, kind of different words, but at the same time, the AA book is a good one to kind of use as your base model, I guess. So then, of course, you can just kind of trade out whichever word. The NA book, which we'll actually take a peek out of today as well, a nice little chapter 2 reading. I think there's good stuff in there as well. I kind of like the NA book quite a bit. I can relate to that. I was also heavy into narcotics myself, so I can relate to it. And then NA meetings as well, I have found very relatable. So it's all about experimenting. It's all about finding something new. So let's first and foremost, before we get into our last week and to our day, kind of reflecting on things, looking at goals, let's, of course, take a quick moment of silence, followed by the Serenity Prayer, and then we get started. Okay, and you can join me if you'd like. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, all right, the last couple of weeks I've been mentioning is, has been busy, and it's been physically demanding. I mean, it kicked my ass, to be honest with you. I went from, again, doing absolutely nothing, just consuming drugs, alcohol, whichever. That was basically my form of exercise, was getting up off the couch, getting into the car, and making a drug run, getting home, and then using the drugs, and then, sitting on my ass playing video games. I mean, there were some times I'd go out on, like, walks and shit like that, but, I mean, come on. Actually doing physical exercising, no, that wasn't it. So, I'll tell you what, it was... a little bit of a culture shock, I guess. I knew it was going to be physically demanding. I mean, any warehouse job really comes with that. But at the same time, it surprised me a little bit, and it surprised my body, I guess, because mentally I really don't have an on-off switch. It's just kind of go until you finish the job. Kind of busted up the knee a little bit like that. Didn't even realize it. And then at the end of the shift, it was like, holy shit, it's fucked up. And then for the next couple of days, it was just awful. So I really don't have that meter until it's over. I just kind of strain myself and go until the job is done. And for somebody that, again, hasn't exercised or hasn't done anything like that for a long time, you got to take it easy, man. Got to take it easy. So I give myself a little bit of a break with that, but at the same time, I think, looking back, reflecting, I need to exercise a little bit more myself, just simply go on some walks, maybe get a bike or something. I think for the last 2.5 years, I have said I'm going to get a bike, and that's one thing that you can take away kind of from being stuck in an addiction, right? Is you look at so many different things. Like you'll be sitting on the couch, maybe you're fucked up, I don't know, but you're sitting on the couch, you're talking with buddies and your friends, or maybe you're just talking with yourself, and you're saying, damn, how cool would that be to have? And how cool would it be to be able to do this and to save up and do this? Yeah, so fucking do it. But being stuck in addiction means that you have to make enough, not only money-wise, but you also have to have the access and the ways to means to be able to get high and also be able to do that. And a lot of the time, even celebrities, yeah, they have the money to be able to do both, but that almost ends up even more toxic, right? So it's very difficult to be able to do both. It's a very slim percentage that actually do have the ways and means, the access, and the money to be able to hold an addiction, a daily addiction. I mean, when I was looking at my worst times, the amount of pills I was doing, about $100 a day, plus $15 in booze, something like that. So I mean, I was about 120-ish, maybe a little bit. We'll call it $120 to $150 every day, every 2 days, right? I mean, it was ridiculous. It was enough to wipe myself. I mean, my parents, anybody that would send me any money or pawning shit off or selling shit. I thankfully was never too much into the thievery. I had sticky finger when I was in high school anyway, so I had a theft ticket from just stealing a fucking Snickers bar out of a gas station. But I had stolen so much shit before that. I mean, hey, hold on. I don't want to incriminate anything like that, so I'll go ahead and save it. But again, sticky fingers, quite a bit of sticky fingers. Saved myself. Besides when I already got caught for that one, right? I already got caught for the one that I stole. I didn't even get out the door, right? They just told me they emptied my pockets. I should have ran. But my car was there. I figured they would have gotten my plates. Anyway, I digress. There's a lot of people that do commit those crimes to be able to make means to get high, to get their fix, right? And it's unfortunate, certainly. I really hate the connotation that addicts, again, are immediately criminals. Just because you're an addict means you're a criminal? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that's, again, why I'm even doing this show. A big major reason is because I want this conversation and this, taboo to be eliminated. I truly do. It's really not that difficult to talk about. I struggle with it. I really do. However, doing it like this kind of forces me to. So I hope this kind of helps many of you out there maybe talk with individuals or even just listen to be talking to myself and others about the scenario. So it's good to get these things out. It really is. It's good to get these things out. But, again, physically demanding job. It's been a good last couple of weeks for me. Again, I digress. Let's get back to shit here. Physically demanding week. It's been a good week, though. Again, stayed sober. I've hit now 2 months away from pills and alcohol. Again, as we had mentioned, we've got the marijuana story, and I don't want to say that it's the marijuana treatment plan. That I don't believe in that. I don't believe in trading one thing for the other. However, my attitude towards weed has really never even been what And again, I'm justifying shit. I shouldn't be. But again, I need to not smoke at all to truly continue on. But this is a milestone that I'm proud of. Truly, 2 months clean from pills and alcohol. That was the shit that nearly killed me a couple of times. Probably put several other people in danger. I mean, the stories, the amount of times that, I took some pills and woke up the next morning and had no idea really where I was or where I had been the previous night. I mean, the sayings that I had traveled somewhere, and it's like, I got in my car and drove like that? I don't even remember that shit. How did I drive? Did I get pulled over? And I have been pulled over several times. Don't even have a DUI. I am blown away sometimes at the shit that sometimes you do get away with, and then, of course, the stuff that you don't get away with is usually like just oblivious, simple shit, but then it just builds up into this huge blow-up. Anyway, it's been nice, being 2 months clean away from it. And I'm proud of it. So I'm keeping that number. But again, I am smoking a little bit of weed here and there. So I got to be honest with myself. Looking back and looking forward as well, again, I got to get to more meetings. I'm going to try and do the 90 and 90. I really got to. Again, with my job, it's very difficult. So I'm going to try and continue with the Zoom meetings. But I really think going to 90 meetings in 90 days is a powerful movement. It's something that they heavily encourage the minute that you get out of inpatient. I really did it for, the first couple of months, and then obviously, got a little cocky, started not going. I got out of outpatient as well. And then when I got out of outpatient, it was just kind of like free reign, did a little coke, relapsed fully, and then it was boom, right back into the shit. And I never went back into rehab, but had to go through the full kind of detoxing process again on my own, which is fucked. It's a horrible process. So if you have the means to do it medically, then do it. But I couldn't do it a second time. There's no way. But you got to do what you got to do. And for right now, smoking a little bit of weed has helped me a little bit. But again, not fully sober, but 2 months sober off of pills and alcohol. So good stuff for that. I'm celebrating the birthday today. We'll do that also in the final segment. So that'll be coming up a little bit later as well. So looking forward, goals again for me, I got to hit more meetings, 90 and 90. I got to do that. I got to do the 90 and 90. I got to find another. Again, you kind of work personally within these couple of steps, but at the same time, you need someone to be there to guide you as well as continue on through the rest of the steps. But need to find another sponsor that I have officially moved up here and continue on with those steps, with the step work. So another goal for me on that. And again, exercise. So just simple goals, short-term goals really. Long-term goals, looking into the future now that I'm not going to have to be spending as much money on and I hate to use money really as a royalty because there's so much more than to that, but it's good to have a little bit of nest egg, right? Just in case shit hits the fan, blown tire, some shit like that. I don't know. But I kind of want long-term wise us to be able to save up a little bit of money for the next couple of years. And I think we'll be able to easily kind of chart that, Don't really need to get into details, but as simple as that. I want to finally be able to dedicate a budget and just live happily off of what we have right now and be able to save up for again, if shit hits the fan or if, something cool comes up and we want to do something again, like I was saying, those conversations that you have on the couch sometimes that you're super fucked up or sometimes you're even sober and you're just like, man, I wish I could do that. Man, I wish I could have that and be that. And you can. You just got to put effort and some time into it. So those are my goals for the next couple of weeks. Again, here in this first segment, like we usually do, we just kind of look back on these last couple of weeks. We reflect. What have you done that you're really proud of, truly? And if you'd like to write it down, honestly, it's very helpful to write these things down and to remember these things and to give yourself credit, truly. I was my biggest enemy. My self-esteem was through the ground, if you will. I mean, it was beyond low and just hated myself. You got to give yourself some credit. I'm my biggest enemy. My biggest critic to everything. So writing things down like that helps me, and personally, it could probably help a lot of those out there as well. So write down the things that you are proud of as well as goals, and use the goals as kind of reflecting into the previous week as well. What did you do last week that necessarily you could have done a little bit better, or, maybe, hey, I didn't hit that meeting, those few days in a row, so let's do that this week. Or maybe I didn't, maybe I did slip up last Monday and had a drink or something like that, so I got to stay clean this week. I got to stay clean today. That is the whole kind of mantra, the entire mindset that you should have is just stay clean today. So, all right, let's move on now. Let's get into, again, a little bit more of DBT training. We started off last week with just kind of the general overview of exactly what dialectical behavior therapy is. And really it's the ability to train yourself after training yourself without even realizing it through neuroplasticity. And we'll get into that big word here in just a second. But, you trained your brain already through years and years in use. Again, that's why I struggle with the disease word. However, it is a justifiable word, as well as I like allergy. Your brain reacts differently to the substance that you're putting it into it. Mine, personally, I was just a go. Whenever I took something, it was like, all right, I'm good for the day. I got energy. I'd like to go out and do everything right now. I mean, honestly. And then, of course, there's a limit that you get to, and then, boom, blackout city, whatever. So there's obviously a line, but my brain kind of had a different reaction to things, as well as kind of the ability to build this, overwhelming routine, if you will. I had a routine every single day of what I would do, how I wanted to feel, level-wise, sobriety-wise, how much did I want to get fucked up today, and then eventually it just turns into an everyday kind of fanatic and zoo. So let's get into this here. Addiction and the brain. Brain-based therapy is a promising approach. Again, we look into the AA book. When you read through the doctor's opinion, when you read through Bill's story, you will really see it outlined pretty significantly. And I reread it again. It was 2%. They had a 2% success rate while using just, simple science and not really simple science, but, science and Western medicine, and just trying to find a penicillin to fill in the gaps, or just trying to find something to fill in the gaps besides actually using brain-based therapy, again, for addiction treatment, because addiction is all really about the brain. We talk about, the shortcuts that your brain has. I remember that back in, middle school, high school, fucking off a YouTube video, I don't know. Wherever you learn shit, your brain has thousands of shortcuts. It makes it every moment of every day, especially when you do something as a routine, because it remembers that you've been doing that. So there is a difference. And that's one thing that I really would like to make define here. And that why I think the word allergy and disease is justifiable is because there is something going on inside that individual's brain. There was a change that had happened within the brain chemistry. Did they take it? Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I absolutely wanted to smoke a bunch of weed and drink as much as I wanted to and snort down the pills. That was me, okay? I didn't just go outside and get sick with addiction. That's not how it works. I made that decision. However, my brain was more susceptible and more... I was even warned of it as a child. My mom even told me throughout my family line, whether it's immediate or distant, whichever, that there is addiction within the family tree. So I even had the warning. I did, and I abused it. I certainly did. I mean, I experimented with a lot of different things, and I don't even think in comparison. Now there is really no level to addiction, but I never shot IV, which, again, I don't want to say is a major separation, but that is a different level of trying to get over that hurdle. And I envy those that have done that now in long-term recovery. And I, again, would love to hear from you, whether you were an IV user or not, or just an alcoholic, not a drug user, a sex addict, a cocaine addict only, meth, whichever. I would like to speak with you. Simply-difficult@outlook.com. You can stay completely anonymous. You can just stay between you and I. The email is only hooked up to my computer right here, so it's just you and I that'll be able to kind of talk about this stuff. And then again, I'm that transference system that kind of takes this information that I have learned already within inpatient and from others, and hopefully from counselors and some professionals that will come on the program later. We will, again, just kind of transfer that information onto those out there listening. So we appreciate you, however you're listening. For now, YouTube, SoundCloud, we're going to try and get it on as many platforms as we can. But again, when you're talking about an addict, let's get back into, addiction and the brain. Simply using a substance, even such as alcohol or an illegal drug, once can alter the connections and neurotransmitters in the brain. So this is what they mean. Even one time can change. Absolutely. You're not going to become a full-blown addict, but at the same time, there's almost a curiosity note. It's always going to be in your brain as to what you did. It's like that one bad acid trip, right? You just had a fucking horrible acid trip. I mean, hell, I had an awful mushroom trip. I can't take those goddamn things anymore at all. But say you had a really good reaction to that, your brain is, of course, going to be sitting there the entire time saying, I had a good reaction to that. I did. 100%. Why? That curiosity kind of peeks back in. So our brain contains several pathways, again, as we had mentioned, between neurons and substance abuse effects, the ones focused on reward. So, when your brain naturally, sometimes exercising or even, achieving something or achieving a goal, and you get that rush and you have that hit of dopamine, and it happens naturally. But when you are using an artificial reward system, again, when something makes us feel good, a neurotransmitter, dopamine, released from the central neurons and transmitted to others. This pathway contains several backup methods for keeping the pleasure sensation from getting out of control. However, again, if you just start to use different drugs like cocaine, opiates, they disturb those different parts of the backup system. So over time, you won't be able to produce it naturally. You're not going to be able to produce dopamine and all of those good-feeling, natural things that you should be able to do, even just by getting up in the morning and having a good smell of coffee. That's why it's sometimes difficult hell, mornings were awful for me. Nowadays, I just kind of shoot up with so much energy, and after a real vivid dream, you just kind of shoot the fuck up, and you're like, Jesus. So, I'm shooting up right now. Mornings aren't too bad, but God damn, I hated morning for the longest of time. Hated getting up because, again, you can't naturally create that dopamine amount. You can't. With drug use over time, the pathways is altered, permanently. So brain neurotransmitters can either stimulate or slow brain activity. And obviously, a whole bunch of different stuff there. I'm not a professional by any means. Too many big words here. Too many big words. But again, you are changing the way that your brain works, and that is the big thing that I'd like to outline. As been getting to this entire time is there really is something going on. And yeah, you can call it a disease. It's justifiable. I like allergy quite a bit, but truly there is a chemical change that has happened within your brain that you have obviously done, or your loved one has done, or something like that. But again, there is a physical change that has happened, a chemical change that's going on in your brain. So neuroplasticity now, the ability of your brain to change its physical structure and focus based on life experiences and repeated behaviors, emotions, and thoughts. So again, neuroplasticity comes in to routine behaviors. This is one thing that I struggled with 100%. Did anybody else out there have like a time that you would usually go to the liquor store just because every 24 hours you'd kind of run out, or every couple of days you'd kind of run out, so you had a time to go to the liquor store? The same fucking guy at the liquor store was there, so he knew exactly what you wanted. As convenient as it was, over a time it became embarrassing for me almost. It was like, Jesus. These people, I know the price. I know the exact cent and price that this is going to come out to today. That I walk in there with whatever. Such a routine. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have probably had that same routine or same time of the day where you were heading to the liquor store or hitting up your drug dealer, or, maybe right in the morning. Hell, when I got really deep into pills, there was a point where it was like every morning when I woke up at like 5 or 6 in the morning, if I didn't have one, I'd be hitting them up. And sometimes they'd be awake, whichever. But if not, I would literally just chain myself to my phone for the next probably 4 hours until they woke up. I'd started work at 4 or 5 in the morning, right? So that's when I wake up, 3, 4 in the morning, get ready for work, go back in, 4 or 5 in the morning, 5, 6 in the morning, whatever the time. And if they hadn't hit me up, I'd stay chained to my phone, man. Chained to it, waiting for them to open that up. And then if they opened it up before, my lunch break, I'd find some fucking reason to get out of there and go get my shit. So you build these easy routes out, I don't want to say being an addict is easy, because, that's kind of controversial. It's not easy. Believe me, it's not easy. But again, if you're choosing to recover and you're choosing to be sober, yeah, being an addict is the easy way out. It truly is. Continuing to be an addict, continuing to go down that pathway that you have just now created, that huge canal that is now in your brain, that is, you have physically made that the easy way out. That is now the easy way out. So now having to change the way that you are thinking, that's not going to be the easy way. So I don't want to say that, recovery, the easy way out is using, because that's a horrible thing to say, but that's the easiest thing to do when you are trying to do long-term recovery is to go back down that highway, man, is to continue back within it. So essentially, this is kind of how your brain can bounce back as well, though, because within neuroplasticity, you're doing it one time, you can do it the other. It might take double the amount of time that you've been putting it into it. I've been doing 10 solid years of drug use. Solid years. And that is consistent smoking every day. And then even for the last 5 years, a mixture of drinking and opiate use all of a sudden, continuous narcotic use, marijuana still, cigarettes. The amount of shit that was going into my body for the time that was a sustained amount of time. I have created a fucking huge highway, a tollway, a freeway that, it can carry thousands of different easy ways out, right? That's my easy way out, is using. It truly is. But you can bounce it back. You really can. Now, again, it might take double the amount of time. I'm 5 solid years in, 10 years in total, probably. probably 25, 30 years. You know what I'm saying? And again, you can't look at it by 25, 30 years. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, truthfully, I mean, if you can honestly say that you fully recovered by yourself within that, within this program and within complete sobriety and complete abstinence, then yeah, you can probably change your brain chemistry within that allotted amount of time. However, that's not how you should look at it. That was one thing that I was drilled into my brain when I was an inpatient, was you can't look at it in a long sense. You absolutely cannot. You can't be looking at things like, oh man, now, I've got a decade in, so I've got to take 20, 25 years off and then I'm good, right? Well, first of all, what kind of fucking logic is that? And then, second off, you shouldn't even be looking that far out anyhow. You should be looking at today. Again, as I had mentioned, I've got my, oh man, I must have lost it or misplaced it now at this point, but I had my old 2-month chip, and I've got to go get a new 2-month chip as well, because again, today, 2 months away from drugs and alcohol. But, again, asterisks, but I'm proud of this 2 months, but, it's... Oh, what the hell was I talking about? Again, you can bounce your brain back. You can't have the mindset that's saying, oh, I need to do double amount of time. You need to have that 24 hours. And speaking about the chips, again, back onto that before I forget, again, the mind's just crazy sometimes when you've used for many, many years. Anyway, you have that 24-hour chip. And that's truthfully probably the most powerful one, because you got to take it day by day. You can't be looking 20, 30 years on down the line. You can't be looking at a year. You can't be looking at a couple of months. I mean, honestly, I started to get so cocky even just after a couple of months. I thought a year wouldn't have been shit. And then I don't think I made it a couple more weeks after that. You got to have that stick-to-itiveness. You really do. So, all right, so neuroplasticity, again, however, the same characteristic makes the brain very vulnerable. It's because of neuroplasticity that addictions become ingrained in your brain and valuable skills are lost as well. So, again, the more and more, many, many years that you continue to use, they like to say it lightly, I guess. And truthfully, it is kind of saying it lightly here, but if you are... even myself, 10 years within that range of use. I'm 25 years old right now, and I probably have a little bit of a leg up compared to somebody that's been using for 10 to 15 years that's in the middle 40s right now, or 10 to 20, or 20 to 30, or 30 to 40 year use, in their 40s and 50s and 60s now. That's a different level. And again, I'd love to have you on the program because I can't have that angle, and I would love our listeners to be able to have that angle so that they can relate as well. Simply-difficult@outlook.com. So I'd love to have you on the program in some way or another, even if it's just an email. I'll read the text. I won't even say the name. You can, again, Skype. You can be a part of the program. We won't show your face, your name, nothing. We can even muffle your voice as well. But again, we'd love to have your viewpoint of a lot of these topics on what we're talking about. And we'll come up with some topics. You and I will connect beforehand, so you're not just, caught off guard by the topics that we're talking about for the day. And then again, you can share your story, your week, your reflection, and I'd love to hear from you guys, so you can be a part of things with that. So let's continue on with our DBT training here. Again, this is kind of the meat of the program today, of episode 4. But as we started last week was emotion regulation. And today we're going to kind of separate, I don't want to necessarily call them good and bad emotions, because I think all emotions are quote unquote good. It's a human ability. It's something that if you weren't supposed to do it, it wouldn't be there, basically, right? So if you weren't supposed to be sad, you probably wouldn't have a sad emotion. If you weren't supposed to be mad, you probably wouldn't have a mad emotion. So I don't want to necessarily call all emotions bad either, because then you have that connotation to where, oh, I'm becoming sad, that's a bad emotion, I shouldn't have it. However, there are, ways that, again, it's how you apply that emotion. It's how you apply after what you feel, and what comes out of that is what can change. So you have to be able to feel everything, but it's, again, how you react upon it, whether it's an impulsive action or acting out, or a physical altercation, something like that. Again, you have to kind of understand the difference between now good and bad emotions. So let's kind of look into good emotions. So emotions communicate to and influence others. You know what I mean? So facial expressions are a hardwired part of emotions. I'm very expressive within my face. You know, this kind of a curiosity, talking face, if you will. And I'm mad, you fucking know when I'm mad. You know what I mean? If I'm sad, you pretty much know when I'm sad. Happy? Hell yeah, you know. Facial expressions communicate faster than words, and it can be difficult to change our emotions when we want to communicate to others. So when you're just flustered fucking mad, you know, just wanting to punch a hole in the wall or something like that, and you just can't stand it, and you're trying to have a civil, calm conversation, those two emotions don't really meld together. If anything, they you know, kind of hit each other. They don't do well together. So that form of communication really wouldn't work. So emotions organize and motivate you for action. Emotions motivate our behaviors, preparing and organizing us for action. So again, it's how you react off of these emotions is what separates them from being a good and bad emotion all of a sudden. And if you have a quote-unquote bad reaction to a sad or a mad emotion, then those are the ones that you just need to work on. Again, it's not necessarily a bad emotion. You need to be able to feel these things, but at the same time, you need to be able to identify which are the ones that may be a little bit more difficult for you. So action urges associated with emotions are hardwired biological factors. Emotions save time in getting us ready to act, so we don't have to think everything through. So a lot of times this is just an instinctual thing. The fight or flight, there's a difference between reacting, but again, it's an instinctual human biological wiring that is in your brain. But it's different. It varies from one person to the next. Somebody in a complete disastrous situation might react to it completely different than me and you, than the next person next to them. Everybody takes a situation differently, and everybody has a different level of that trauma that follows. So let's take a look on the back here. Emotion regulations, facts about emotions. And then after this, we'll take a look at the NA book, and then we'll get through our daily meditations in the CA book and our spiritual reading. We've also got, I think I've been going through a little bit of this shit myself. So it's called Post-Acute Withdrawal Syndrome. Post-Acute Withdrawal Syndrome. Kind of want to read through that packet myself. I want a little bit more information for myself, and again, kind of transfer that one on to you. But let's take a look at this. Facts and emotions here, right? Anger. Let's talk about anger. Blood flows to the hands, making it easier to grasp. So think about grabbing a weapon or striking something, or that fast motion of having to get out. The heart rate increases, rush of hormones, adrenaline. Fear, then, blood goes to the large skeletal muscles, such as the legs, easier to, get the fuck out of there, things like that. Happiness, increase in brain center activity that inhibits negative feelings and fosters an increase in available energy and quieting of those that generate worrisome thoughts. So happiness is almost just kind of like an overwhelming takeover instead of the ones that fill it with those. Love is tender feelings and sexual satisfaction. Why did I laugh? I'm such a fucking child. Sexual satisfaction entail parasympathetic arousal. I think I got that word right. Surprise is the lifting of the eyebrows, allows the taking in of larger visual sweep, and also permits more light to strike the retina. I did not know that. Disgust is the expression for disgust is universal. I think everybody knows that one, the stank face. Sadness helps one to adjust to a significant loss, such as the death of someone close or a major disappointment. So, again, this is what I kind of almost a perfect outlining one for the last one here, is when something like that happens. Now, again, when you're angry, not really a justifiable action to go around start punching people, right? Maybe if you had a punching bag and that's your way of expressing it, that's a constructive way of doing it. But going around punching people or physically exerting your anger outwardly and onto others is not a justified way, as well as your fear or your disgust or your sadness even, really. But again, being sad, being mad, having disgust and disappointment, being fearful, those are all essential emotions and all things that you're going to feel, especially if you're in the stages that I am at right now. Again, I'm just at 2 months. I'm fresh into this, right? Fresh meat. I got just nearly to, it was like 2 months and 28 days or something like that when I relapsed. So I nearly got to 3 months last time. So I'm proud of the 2 months. I got to work up to the 3 months, but I've never even made it past that. So I'm fresh into this shit, just trying to learn myself. And again, just transfer it onto you guys. Transfer it onto however you may be listening. We're going to try to get it on as many ways as we possibly can. So let's step away from the DBT book now. I think we've looked enough through that for the last couple of weeks. Let's get into kind of this chapter 2, step 2 reading, I guess, if you will, in the NA book. Let me get the page here for you. It is on page 23 in the Narcotics Anonymous book. Again, you can purchase these online. You can get them probably at your local community center, which was majority of the time where your AA meetings will be held, or at a church or something like that. So at these AA meetings, which is, again, what I hope this show to be, is a bridge for those that maybe this is just another outlet to have an AA meeting at home. Maybe you couldn't catch up. Maybe we're all isolated, quarantined at home. Fuck, I don't know. Snowstorm. Maybe we're just all stuck at home. This is a way that you can do it at home and be a part of it. I'd love to get this live as well. We got to get a little bit more of a generated following behind things so we can start doing things live and just kind of have a big meeting with everybody. We're going to try and get it out there, but, for now, leave your information in the email as well as in the comments through YouTube, SoundCloud, and we're going to try and get it up on as many different platforms as we can. But here's the NA book here. Step 2. The second step is necessary if we expect to achieve ongoing recovery. The first step leaves us with the need to believe in something that can help us with our powerlessness, uselessness, and helplessness. So this is kind of the big step for me that really struggled with, right? Because I'm not very religious at all. Now, again, I don't even want to necessarily say this would be an easy step for somebody that has a faith of already such a higher power, such as a religion, right? Because you don't necessarily have to use even a religious God, even if you are religious, as your higher power. However, that is majority of the time a very useful tool for individuals. I was never, raised religious and really even put a lot of effort into doing some research myself and never really just got hooked onto it. I could talk about religion for forever. That's not this show, right? But I'm not necessarily somebody that just thinks, well, here we die. It's too fucking complex, to be honest. I mean, think about this world. Think about space, man. Think about this fucking universe. Like, this is the most complex shit, and what blows me away is nobody ever talks about it. And it's just like, look at this place, and we can't be here for just a random fucking reason, right? Like, this is random. Talk about a coincidence. Talk about random. No, man, there's something behind it. But when you talk about a religion or, being religious in that manner, I struggle with the concept of things on many different things. This is, again, for those out there that might be agnostic, such as myself, or even atheist, you don't need a God. You don't need a religious higher power in order to find power in something that's greater than yourself. For me personally, it is just the support and love, because love has always kind of, gone over my head. I've never really understood love as an emotion, and I almost don't even want to put it as an emotion, right? You almost don't want to even put it in at the same level, because with love you can get really fucking just mashed, right? You can get your heart broken, or it can be the most beneficial, amazing thing that you have in your life. It truly can be. And for me, as much as I've had my heart broken, as much as I've had my heart smashed, when shit and times got tough, right? When times got tough, and I was going through rehab, and I was going through overdoses and suicide and job losses and whatever. When you go through that, and you still have people there, man, that goes over my head, And I don't want to say, again, it just blows me away. What did I do? So love for me is just an overwhelming oddity. I don't understand it. I just can't understand it. So that is a power that is greater than me, and it is something that's been a part of my life for a very long time. I have a great support system, great friends. My friends are assholes, but I love them. They are my best friends, man. And I can't wait to see where we all might end up, man. Honestly. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be a religious higher power. It really doesn't. So the first step left that kind of black area, that vague area that we need to find something to fill the void. This purpose is where the second step comes in. So again, it's not necessarily the easier step either if you are religious. If you're Christian or Catholic or Mormon or whichever, probably an easy faith that you can use, is your faith in God and your faith in the world and I don't know how it works. I'm not religious, but your faith can guide you through these things, and your faith is powerful enough, honestly, to get you in to church or to get you to continue to follow or pass it on down from generation to generation. Just apply that into now your recovery, honestly. So some of us didn't take the step seriously at first. We passed over it with minimum of concern, only to find the next steps wouldn't work until we had step 2. So again, I'm not necessarily saying it's easier when you have a religious God. It's not. And to be honest, even if you are religious, you can have something else. You can choose something else to be your higher power, to be your step 2. All right, we went a little bit long, so let's get into this here. We'll get to the little red book next week, as well as we're going to have a guest on in our next program. But this is Post-Acute Withdrawal System. I'm going to say system again. Post-Acute Withdrawal Syndrome. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, so it says here at the top, am I going crazy? A common misconception shared by many people, including those with addiction, their loved ones and friends, and even some medical and behavioral health professionals, is that soon after the offending substances are out of the body, upon completion of detox, life will get noticeably better and normal. However, you've been through detox and all the withdrawal symptoms, and you are doing pretty well, perhaps for a month or two. Suddenly, you start to realize that you're feeling them again. So, not necessarily crazy. And this is kind of where I'm at right now. I'm at this 2-month period of time. I've stepped away. Still smoking a little bit of weed. Not on the habitual basis that I was for the longest of time. But no alcohol, no pills, no heavy drugs. Thank goodness. I need to lay off the fucking caffeine. I mean, ever since we got our cold brew coffee maker, we are just off the charts. Coffee fiends. So I need to at least get some decaf or some shit like that, right? Because if I'm going to make it like a daily drink or even a double daily drink, double dip, then you got to get something that, is manageable. So the caffeine, I got to manage that a little bit less. But again, I've been doing pretty well with this, and I think what I've been feeling recently is large in part of the using dreams that I'm having, and this almost goes into, again, the post-acute withdrawal syndrome. Let's take a look at what you might feel here. Difficulty thinking clearly, obviously. So difficulty thinking clearly, which symptoms-wise, concentrating problems, abstract thinking problems, circular thinking, coming back to the same thought over and over and over again. Memory problems. God damn, have I had this one for the longest of time. You know what's weird about sometimes with my memory, and probably some of yours out there? I remember weird, specific shit, And I could probably bring it up at a dinner table, and it would be the most random shit, just most random information. I don't know why my brain remembers random information. And then when there's like actual physical information that I need to remember, I actually have to physically do something. I can't just read it and take that information and ingrain it in my brain. I have to physically do it. So I have to almost learn in 2 different ways, and then my memory, again, kind of learns itself off those 2 different ways, because I remember the most random, stupid shit, but then again, I remember how to do something when I actually do it. So if I try and read something and get, some sort of comprehension out of it, I can't. I struggle with that. I always have. Let's see. Emotional overreaction or numbness. So this could go both ways. I mean, there's some times where, again, you need to cry and you just didn't cry. Or maybe it was, you didn't get ice in your Diet Coke and you get overwhelmed and you just, need a solid cry. You know what I mean? Sleep disturbances. Hell yeah to that. I have had plenty of those. Physical coordination problems and stress sensitivity. So just a lot of different mixture of things. And this is right where we're at. And if you happen to be in the same level that I am at, again, I'm reading it for now because I'm in the same shoes. But if you're a couple of years down the line, I don't know if you still struggle with post-acute withdrawal syndrome. But for now, again, if you're even a couple of months into this process, you may still be going through those little things, that little kind of knock at the door from your addiction in the back, in the rear view mirror, saying, hey, I'm still here, I'm still in your head, and you still have to dedicate a day-by-day kind of regiment in order to get better. So, all right, let's take a look at our daily reading. It is the, 21st. Actually, we'll just go to the 20th here, which would have been yesterday. So February 20th. Oh, it goes well into our reading today. How about that? Simplified, step 2. Step 2, inform me that the power greater than myself could restore me to sanity concerning drink and drugs. Having realized I have no control over mind-altering substances and having accepted that abstinence would be a good idea, I was told that if I worked the 12 steps, I would never again have to suffer from the terror, misery, shame, and pain of addiction. The only thing necessary was for me to come to believe in a power greater of which I had no understanding. I decided I needed counsel with my sponsor, talked about the dilemma I was facing. I told him I was struggling with this power talked about in step 2, asked if he believed in the 12 steps. And the meetings, the big books, AA, and I answered yes, of course. Even to me, it was evidence that the 12-step programs had saved many people from scrap. So let's see. To those who struggle with the concept, God has sometimes been defined as good, orderly direction or group of drunks or drug addicts. Framing the notion of a higher power in these terms have helped us, many of us, grab a basic spiritual belief. So using these fellowship groups, such as the AA groups, maybe, again, you find a good Zoom group or something, or maybe it's just here, or maybe you find something within your community that you have that fellowship within. You can kind of change, again, the acronym into group of drug addicts. Now, again, maybe for those heavy religious folks out there, that might be a little offensive, I don't know, but at the same time, you can change it into your own understanding of things. So a simplified step 2, again, for me, I kind of struggled with that. And, I had a sponsor a long, long time ago. It wasn't even really a sponsor. It was a guy that I wanted to ask to be my sponsor, truthfully. I wanted to just say, will you be, help me out? And just kind of really dug into the fact that I wasn't religious and wasn't going to be able to really do a whole lot and be very productive without it. And that's just not going to work for me, and it's truthfully not the way you should do it. You just need to find what works for you, truthfully. Whatever works for you. All right, so let's get into this here. Birthdays for today. Rebirth dates. Again, so from today until next Saturday, if you have a rebirth date, which means that you've been sober for either a day, a week, a month, 2 months, all the way up to 12 months, and then a year and beyond, however many years beyond that. I'd love to hear you, however many years that you've been sober. Kim, that's all we'll say. Again, she was okay with the name, but Kim, 16 years today, which would have been the 20th of February. So congratulations to Kim on 16 years. Staying anonymous, no names, however, from Wyoming, 2 years on the 20th. So 2 years today. Congratulations. And then Jackson as well, no location, 6 months on the 20th. And then again, 2 months simplified for me right there. So you can send me your birth date, your rebirth date. You can send me all information, whether you'd like to be a part of the program up on Skype, FaceTime, or if you would just like me to read out your story over the email, you can type it up on there. Simply-difficult@outlook.com. That is the number one place to go to. Also, I do file, through the pages both of YouTube and SoundCloud. Leave a comment in there. I will definitely see it, and we will try and get you on the program as best as we can, or at least get the information that you have for others out as well. So that's basically what I'm trying to use the show as, is me as a transference system to take what I have and what I am learning or have learned, or the connections that I have made, take them and pass them on to you, and hopefully help you and hopefully some others out there through addiction, and again, kind of eliminate that harsh line that is this simply difficult conversation of recovery. So that's going to do it for us this week, folks. Again, we did get behind last week. We're going to stay on this Saturday regimen. One every Saturday, 1 hour long. It's not even that bad. Again, we released a show yesterday, and today. So we're going to be back at it on Saturday. We're going to have a guest with us as well, a recovering addict. So he'll be joining us, giving us a nice little look from the outside in, not just my viewpoint, but his as well. So really get yourself to an AA meeting, an NA meeting, get yourself out there, get yourself some help, get yourself some, some support, really, whether it comes to a sponsor, your family members, your friends, whatever it may be. Get yourself some help, and join us next time here on Simply Difficult.
Hey, thanks again for joining me today. And see, an hour wasn't so bad. So get yourself to an actual AA meeting, rehab, or other anonymous groups. Meet a sponsor, new friends, and learn how to talk about this simply difficult journey to recovery. Because I know how difficult it is. When a substance dictates how good or bad your day is going to be, how it controls how you feel, and when it holds on to you, how you as a person changes. Dishonesty, manipulation, and no control of emotion. Well, I see you. And if it feels like nothing else can help, come join me next time on Simply Difficult.